What's up, guys? Josh Shaw here with the Card Guys, and today we got a spoiler from LSS Cry of Bellona, the new Light Warrior attack reaction. So this is a card that I think is a little bit more complicated than it looks. There's some kind of unique mechanics and timing issues and all that. So we're going to break down the whole card for you guys. So if you haven't seen the card, this is a zero-cost yellow pitch Light Warrior attack reaction that blocks for 3. It says target rating gets +2 this turn. Worded very particularly. We're going to break that down. Also, as an instant, you can discard this, banish X cards from your soul. The next time target weapon deals X or less damage to you this turn, deal that much damage to its controller, and that damage can't be prevented. So, quite a complex card. There's a lot of text on it, and we're going to break it down. But first, let's start with like a little bit of like a high-level overview. So cards in this game typically come in 2 varieties. They're either power cards or they are glue cards. And Cry of Bellona, I think, is leaning more towards the glue side because it has a lot of, without even looking at the text box, it already has the fundamentals of a strong light warrior card. Okay, it costs 0. We've seen a trend of moving away from cards like Fendel Spring Tunic. Now, obviously, there are some 1-cost cards that you play in Bolton, via the Vanguard, Take Flight, Valiant Thrust, and all that. But in general, 0 cost is definitely where you want to be, especially for reactions. That's why Courageous Steel Hand was often seen in red and sometimes even in yellow. Things like Lumina Lance. Spoiler alert, I think this card is going to replace Lumina Lance for a lot of players. Was another 0-cost attack reaction. Beacon of Victory, obviously one of the best ones, right? And we look at the 1-cost ones, so that's basically talking about Resounding Courage. That is a card that never really picked up, even though it's pretty strong. But costing 0, I cannot emphasize how important that is, okay? It is also a yellow card. This is very, very relevant for Warrior, or for Bolton, because a lot of the Dusk Till Dawn charge cards not require, but you gain a lot of benefit from charging a yellow card. This is also subtly, I think, pushing a little bit more on the Prayer of Bellona. That's a card near and dear to me. I played that at a Worlds in Barcelona. So if we have enough yellow cards, which we're kind of getting close to there, they keep on adding yellow cards. Prayer Bellona could be good. It blocks for 3, which is extremely important. I've said multiple times that I think the reason Courageous Steel Hand doesn't block for 3 was actually because of limited. And we've kind of seen a little bit of that in heavy hitters as well. We saw the rare attack reactions like Fatal Engagement, the one that cut the deck. That one, those block for 3, whereas the common like Agile Engagement, Vigorous Engagement, stuff like that was blocking for 2. So this is an expansion slot card, so nice that it can block for 3. And this says Light Warrior attack reaction. Being a light card is also very important because of cards like Via the Vanguard and Lumina Ascension both want you to charge or reveal light cards. So this being a Light Warrior attack reaction is obviously very good. Okay. With all that said, let's jump into, we'll go line by line, section by section, and we'll explore this card together. All right, so the first section, I have named it Light Blade Flurry. So target rating gets +2 this turn. So this is basically Blade Flurry, which gives +2 to the first attack, +2 to the second attack, weapon attack, right? So there's several interesting interactions. The most baseline interaction is that you play your Lumen Ascension, you swing with Raydn, and hey, the best attack reaction. So you could argue that Beacon of Victory would be the best attack reaction, but I think for most situations, Cry of Bellona is actually the best attack reaction. So your opponent probably blocks either with some armor or a card in armor, or they don't block and they're going to try to sink below, or Fate Foreseeing your Raydn, and you play Cry of Bellona, and you can easily extract 2 value from the first attack, 2 value from the second attack. Very likely this causes the attack to hit, so you get 1 life from healing, unless you reveal like E-Strike or Unsheathed or Sink Below or whatever non-light card you're playing. So generally you're going to gain a life and then you'll gain a soul. Which, hard to say what that converts to, but probably that converts to at least 1, right? So this card, if you play it, not forgetting the whole instant discarding it and all that, this card is worth probably 6. Now, if this causes the first attack to hit, this means the second attack is even more likely to hit as well, because this is coming in for 6 or 7, which is going to be very difficult for most opponents to block. And then you'll extract another value from Lumina. And those of you who have played Boltyn quite a bit know that extracting value from Lumina is extremely important. This is something that I've told people playing against Boltyn very, very plainly. It's like, you do not let Lumina Ascension hit. If Lumina Ascension hits, it better be because I had Courageous Steel Hand or Beacon of Victory, or flashed it in, right? So in general, this card, Cry of Bellona, is going to allow Lumina Ascension to be more powerful. Now, there are some other interesting interactions. So if you have Spirit of Arena out, you can attack for 3, holding a lot of cards back, because you're holding Warcry and Lumina back. Now your opponent doesn't know, okay, is it going to be just give Raydn Go again into Valiant Thrust or Cataclysm or Bolt of Courage or whatever, or Illuminate or something? Or is it going to be Flash in Lumina, play Warcry? And that mix-up is quite strong. And very, very likely, once you have Spirit of Arena out and you start attacking with Raydn, very, very likely that Lumina's going to hit. So that's a very, very nice interaction. One other interaction I can think of off the top of my head is at the very end of the game, you used to push Raydn forward. Let's say you had to block with a couple cards. You push Raydn forward, and they'd be like, so that's Raydn for 0? And you're like, yep. And then they go check your graveyard, and like, okay, he has 3 Beacon of Victories. Okay, in there. Okay, so, okay, I can't die. Okay, no blocks, right? And then you're like, okay, sure. But now you could actually kill people with Cry of Bellona. You push it forward for 0, and you give it +2. So that is that little mini Storm Striders effect at the end of the game. And, just because this card exists, people will have to respect it a little bit. Okay, so that's the first section. If you play it like a yellow 3 block that can extract likely 6 value, I think this card's already very good. A card that can extract 6 value when paired with another card is considered fairly strong, right? Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the next thing. All right, so Raydn Resplendent. Now, the card Cry of Bellona is worded very, very, very particularly. It says target Raydn. Now, there are 2 other cards in the game that are worded kind of like this. Glistening Steelblade, Chorus of Ironsong specify Dawnblade. They don't care whether it's OG Dawnblade or Dawnblade Resplendent. Glistening Steelblade and Chorus of Ironsong work for both of these weapons. Anybody that's been playing Quicksilver Prodigy in Blitz knows that how powerful this could be, right? So, I think it is somewhat likely that we see another version of Raydn. Maybe not in this set, but sometime soonish. Maybe it's an expansion slot card in the next set. Or they just worded it that way to make it work with whatever new cards that they print, right? So that's something to keep in mind, is that because it's worded in this way, somewhat likely we have a Raydn coming down the line. All right, let's talk about the next section. So the next part I named Light Steelblade Shunt. So discard this, banish X cards from your soul. So you have to do both of these. Now, X is somewhat limited by what is attacking you, which weapon is attacking you. And it doesn't actually have to be weapon that's attacking you. There's some shenanigans with flick knives that could happen. Or auras, I guess, that are weapons that are attacking you. But the main thing is that you're going to need some cards built up in soul. Now, this is not the easiest thing in the world to do because most Raydn, aggro pure Raydn builds are focused primarily on having just enough soul. Even cards like Lumina Lance were not seeing a ton of, they were seeing some play, but not like a ton of play. And you never really were flooded with soul like you were with the Saber's combo. So very likely that there will be some limit on just how much damage this can do, but this is a nice effect to have. So the next time target weapon deals damage to you. So this means that you need to withstand or be able to take the damage. Okay, so let's say somebody's attack, you're getting attacked by Reaping Blade for 3, right? So you have to have the life buffer. So you can't be at 3 and say no blocks because you'll die, right? So you have to be able to, in order to get full value, you have to withstand the whole attack. So let's say you're at 4 and they play Reaping Blade and attack you for 3, you go to 1. And before damage, so in the reaction step, you would play this, and you could banish 3 cards. You could banish 4 cards, but I'm not sure why you would do that. Unless they have reactions, which is a whole nother thing. This card is less good against decks that can pump their weapons, because the way it's worded, you can actually lose all the value from it. But yeah, so that's typically how you're going to use the card. You're going to use this as a soul outlet on weapon attacks and kind of ping them basically like Steelblade Shunt does. I did mention that this has some fringe cases with flick knives. Since it doesn't say target weapon attack, it says target weapon. So if they flick knives you and it's not for lethal, which is kind of a rare situation to happen, you could potentially kill them with Cry of Bellona if they flick knives you, which is kind of a cool interaction. But typically I see this as, I don't actually think there's going to be a lot of focus on the second half of this card. Other than against like Enigma. I think the situations where you're going to kill people with Cry of Bellona on defense is not going to be that often. But it is a card that you have an out to, at the very least. So this could be that whole mini Stormstriders effect. We'll see how it goes. All right, the final part of this card that I want to talk about is the damage cannot be prevented. In other words, hey, we don't really like you, Enigma. Now Warrior has actually got access to 3 different cards that have this effect. I think Ranger has a couple, like Murkmire. Assassin has quite a few as well. But traditionally, Warrior has always struggled with Ward because that kind of circumvents the whole core class mechanic of, if you block me, bad things happen. If you don't block me, bad things happen. Ward just says, no reprise, no pump on your weapon, and oftentimes it comes at reaction speed. So Warrior having access to cards like Cry of Bellona, Jagged Edge, Chorus of Ironsong is actually very, very important. This card is the text damage cannot be prevented is actually quite interesting because there's some mind games that can happen against Enigma in particular, because like I said before, if you can pump your weapon, then the Bolton may banish the wrong amount of cards from their soul. And if you banish the wrong cards amount of soul, you banish the wrong cards from your soul, the card just doesn't work, right? So there's going to be some mind games. You also just have to naturally draw this. This is not because you can't do the instant discard this from your arsenal. You just have to draw it. So there's a little bit of variance in that, but being able to clear a whole Enigma board is pretty good. So we'll see how that goes. Now there obviously is some counterplay because they can put counters onto their weapons at instant speed with a couple cards. They can also, that's basically they put counters with their arm piece or stuff like etchings and stuff like that. So we'll see how it goes. I think this card should be quite helpful against Enigma. I already think traditional Raydn Bolton against Enigma was actually fine. Raydn Bolton had the potential to be very, very aggressive. And, if you're running the right equipment, like War Band of Bellona, then you weren't going to brick very often. So, yeah, I don't know if this card is like super necessary for Enigma, but the card's power level is high enough such that I think you're just going to put this in and get that incidental benefit that, hey, if I play against Enigma, I got an extra piece of tech that's just stapled to the card. So, I think this is like I said, the main part of this card is the target rating is +2 this turn, but the whole bottom half does have some niche usage, and against smart players, they're going to have to consider that this is a card in your card pool, and that could influence how they attack or block. So, yeah, we'll see how this goes. I think this card, like I said at the beginning, is a glue type of card. It's a card that has all the right stats and numbers, and when combined with other cards is very strong. And when you use the instant discard this at the correct time, it can be game winning, but it's not a card that's just automatically good, right? There, I could see very often you just block with this card, right? Or you just charge it because it's the yellow. But when certain situations line up, this card definitely could be really, really powerful. So that's kind of my thoughts, initial thoughts on Cry of Bellona. We might be getting another light talented card, so we'll see if that's just for Prism or it's a light talent card. So if we get any information on that, I'll make another video on that. So I'm actually leaving to Chicago in a couple hours. This was kind of an emergency type of video. So if you're going to Chicago, come up and say hi. I'll try to give you a Dory sleeve. But yeah, for the rest of you out there, thanks for watching. This has been Josh Lau with TheCardGuyz. Hope you have a good day. See ya. Take care.